we're here today with Thelma Goosic, a member of the Arizona Drag Racing Hall of Fame and our newest Arizona Drag Racing legend. Thelma has a unique story. Thelma and her family, the Goosic family, were the premier family in the speed equipment business as racing developed in the valley in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They have a good story to tell. Thelma was a big part of that. Thelma was matriarch, but she was part owner of the business as well. And so, Thelma, welcome. Tell me about where were you born?
Texas.
Where about? How in Texas? Where about? How did you get from Texas to? What brought you to Arizona?
My family, my dad and mom.
This came as a child.
In 1939, we came here.
Exciting times.
I had my 10th birthday when we got here.
Very exciting times.
Well, yeah, kind of, because you could do everything you wanted to. You didn't have to worry about walking somewhere or where you went, as long as you didn't go south.
So, what part of town did you live in originally?
Usually we lived right around Van Buren to McDowell, in that area.
Great area. It was that was on the edge of town, kind of, wasn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah,
So-
McDowell was in the city, on the other side of the street. It was the country.
So
At
you
the time.
came here about 10, and obviously you stayed.
Oh, yeah.
You went through school, and then somehow you met a guy,
Yep.
and this guy were you interested in cars when you met Everett?
Not really. It was a bunch of us got together, and we mostly just sit and talk and have fun. We had one friend that played the guitar, so we'd all sit around and he'd play the guitar. And then finally, well, I was 14, Everett was 15, and we just kind of paired off. So Everett and I went together and we stayed together.
Worked out pretty good.
Yep. Just in July we had our 72nd wedding anniversary.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
You and Everett. When did the car start becoming a part of your lives?
Well, he bought his first car when we were going together, and then they started kind of talking about racing, and they'd get some guys together and just take their cars, go in the desert, and they'd race.
Long before drag strip.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then one time they decided that they needed to do something more with it, with the racing. So they started charging 25 cents for the guys to get in, and whoever was the last one to win got the jackpot, which probably was $2 or $3 or something.
Well, it still wasn't a lot of money. It was a lot more back then.
But it was fun.
Was there bragging rights with the money? If you won the money out, you were the winner.
Oh, probably. I don't remember, but probably was.
So, how did the racing progress into, in those days, there wasn't a place you could go to like a Circle K for speed equipment here in Phoenix.
No.
You had to you make parts,
Yeah.
or you had to find somebody who made them, and you all
Yeah.
were out of town. How did you progress into the parts business? I mean, Everett's Racing came along, and he had a higher demand for parts, and was he getting parts for himself, then getting some for buddies, or?
Well, he started out that way, and the parts would come to our house. And on Saturdays, the guys that had ordered parts would all come sit all day in my kitchen waiting for their parts to come in. And nope, you can't even look at them until Everett gets here. You can't undo anything until he gets here. so he knows what's going on. Oh, okay.
How
So-
exciting.
So they would just sit there and talk and drink coffee, which some of them were supposed to be working, but, you know.
So they had the need for speed, and they'd rather be waiting for the parts to unveil it. It was like
Right.
kind of like a Christmas for them, waiting forever to get there and
Yeah,
divvy out the parts.
yeah, because Everett was the first one to start that. Usually had to order them from California. But he said he thought he wanted to go into that business. So we had a bunch of decals and T-shirts. And he rented a building and sold his T-shirts and decals. And that's how he got started.
What was your thoughts about running a building and doing this? Was it good?
I
Were you happy you got
was-
everybody out of your kitchen, or?
I was all for it.
Good.
I wanted him to do what he wanted to do, and that's what he wanted to do, was get in the racing business, so I was for it.
Did it take a while for it to transition into a full-time, or with the fact that he was willing to do it and did business grow pretty quickly for you, or?
It did. That's why it wasn't too long before we had to get the building and the parts and everything. And the guys would just come in and tell them what they needed. And Everett and the boys would order it, and it just kept growing.
So the great thing about this, the Goosic story, the family story, it is a family. You know,
Yes.
Everett and yourself, Bill, Jim, Deb, and Tom, your children, were all part of the business.
Right.
Was that a good thing for you? Did you like working with your family and have them all
Oh,
around
yeah.
you? I guess that's a silly question, but yeah.
No.
Some people don't,
No,
but yeah.
Right. I wish now my kids would have gotten a better education, but I thought they were gonna go on with the business and it was gonna keep going. But then it kind of went downhill because because the sales reps came over here and they'd talk to everybody, you know, and they'd get parts for this guy or that guy, and we kind of have to get after them. That's what we're here for, you know. But they kept trying to get everybody set up in the business.
And Phoenix wasn't that big of a town back then.
No, it wasn't.
So your first location business that was on North Central?
Yeah.
Then you moved to
The address.
2110 East Indian School Road. I
Right.
remember because that's where I met you.
Right.
What was that move? What was the feeling of you needed more space? You needed more parts, a place for parts. What was how did you feel about? Were you excited about that move, or?
Well, yeah, because then it was his business. The other way, he was in with other guys. And this way, it was his business. He could do what he wanted to. And that's what I told him. Do what you want, not what somebody else wants you to do.
So the wonderful thing is you had your support all the way. If you're a part of it,
Yeah,
and
he did.
Through the years, you went to several races, I imagine.
I think I went to every one.
So what drag strips do you remember?
I remember Beeline and Mel Larson's and oh gosh. We went to Tucson once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
We went to Kansas City and he won the trophy in his class there.
That was a big deal.
Yeah, it was. On our way there, my niece and her husband were with us, and we were in Oklahoma City at that time. And David ran over the curb, bent the axle on the trailer, so we couldn't go anywhere, and it was about 12:30 at night. And so we were all all four of us standing out, just kind of looking at it, and these kids came up. And they, wow, at the race car, you know, and they said, what are you going to do, and all that. And then they told him, well, we're not going to do anything because we broke the axle on the trailer. Oh, that's okay, my dad will fix it. So this guy's dad was a go-kart builder. So they took the race cart over to the guy's shop. He repaired the axle. We went racing and went on, and he won his class.
That's the story you tell about racers. The gentleman was into go-karts, but they're all centered around the love for racing or going fast. The stories of people helping people was a lot better back then.
Right, that's what Everett asked the guy what he owed him for fixing it. And he said, nothing. He said, you don't owe me anything. Just tell the next guy, you know, and you help him. So Everett always tried to help everybody at the racetrack. He'd see some of those kids that were young, just getting started, and he'd try to help all of them. So, Bill and Deb know that.
He was quite the guy. He was a very, very good man. He raced, and then there came a time when, you know, your children were growing up, and for instance, Bill wanted to go racing. How did you feel about that?
Well, it's kind of scary, but if that's what they want to do, it's their life. They need to do what they want to do. They can't live for you, you can't live for them.
But you supported them all, and you know we know that, you know, Bill eventually went through early Chevy and some things, ended up with a dragster, and then
right.
Your son Jim, had a dragster,
Right.
and Tom had a dragster.
Right.
But you know your daughter, you know, Debbie did something different. She
A funny car.
funny car. She was the one that had to go fast. So,
Yep.
So when the business progressed, you know, I knew you. This basically became. I'm going to say this. It became improvisers. A lot of things other speed shops weren't doing. One of the things I do remember was that all the parts were out front. You know, that was long before you used to go into a speed shop and everything was in the back room. You had to tell the guy what you wanted. He'd go back and come out, and the guy would leave. Where did that come from? To model the store putting more parts out front?
It's just the way he wanted it set up. So that was all his thoughts and decorating and everything, you know. So
Everett's hope was that people come from one thing and they see something else and they put that on the counter as well. And
well, I guess so. It's just, you know, when you go shopping, you look around.
well, I know that was a big change because there weren't many, you know, even auto parts stores didn't put stuff out front. They might have had
Right.
air fresheners or something up front, but if anything you wanted was in the back.
Yeah.
And I just remember that the Goosic family in the speed shop always having a great assortment of parts out front. That's what definitely attracted me, is the kid riding to the speed shop on my bicycle.
Yeah.
I think I could look at stuff, and it was very interesting. Time went on, and Everett. When did Everett decide that he was? How did he decide not to actually be the driver and race anymore? What was?
Oh, it was really hard. He didn't even want to go to the races if he couldn't drive.
He was a racer. It was in his
yeah.
blood.
Yeah, but he just didn't say too much. He just quit.
He, besides your family, there are a lot of other people that worked for you through the years, myself included, that you mentored in a lot of ways. You were mom. You were in the family. I think that people that once they work for you, they felt part of the family, and then everybody kind of goes on and does different things. But the importance of what you did, and the touched a lot of lives in a positive way. You know, we're talking about not only the people that work for you, but your customers in the speed shop. I know that I watched, and Everett was very patient with young racers coming in. And I think one of his deals was, he had a lot of Everett sayings. One, you know, and I'm sure he adapted from somebody else, but the saying about speed costs money, how fast do you want to go? I remember him saying that a few times.
Yeah.
And I also watched him set people up and ease them into it, realizing that you can't go from nothing to a top fuel dragster overnight.
Well, like he would tell them if they came in for a helmet, and we had different prices in the helmets, and the guy would say, well, which one should I buy? And he'd say, well, how much do you like your head? You know, do you like it $20 or do you like it $50? Because there was a difference in the helmets, and usually they would buy the better helmet because of what he would say to them in trying to choose. He didn't tell them which one they had to choose. He just kind of gave them a ultimatum of what they thought about their head themselves, you know, because he'd seen guys already get hurt. And when Mel Larson stripped one time, this guy, I'm trying to think of his name, that had the like jet engines.
Jet car?
Yeah. And he got killed out Mel Larson's strip. And after that, then that's when Eric started telling him about the helmets.
He used a lot of his experience on the track and his passion to watch after people. You want
Right.
people to have fun, they
Well,
want
he
them to
didn't
be safe.
want to see anybody else get hurt, you know. He'd sell you the parts, but you take care and take care of yourself and buy what you can afford to help yourself, you know.
So all during the time of the time, you were a big part of that. You really were. You
Well,
know,
I was there all the time.
you were a partner.
I had to
you had to
have my nose in there.
I thought, and the interesting thing is you did this at a time long before it was acceptable for women to be really involved with racing and to know what they're talking about, and you were amazing, and
Thank you.
you did very well at that, and you had a following yourself. I think you inspired a lot of other couples. You were friends with the spouse of a racer.
Yeah.
And I think you encouraged a lot of people. Is there any stories of any races you went to where you just had a great time, or what was your favorite racetrack? You remember if you're going to go somewhere?
I think Beeline was the favorite racetrack. And when they put the bridge up there, and it was just blank, and I told Rick Lynch that it needed something up there, and he said, like what? And I said, our name. Oh, okay. So I talked to Everett about it, and we went in and had our name put on the bridge. And then when it was time to renew it, well, Rick came in and he said, well, I think we need to give poor little Loper a chance and put his name up there. And I said, I don't think so. He didn't think about it. But Rick used to get upset with me because I would talk to the guys and tell them, why should you pay to get into the races? The spectators are supposed to be the ones that pay and make the check for the guy that wins.
Oh, you weren't making him happy at all with that, I imagine.
No, not at all. Why don't you just be quiet? He'd say, no, because you're not doing it right.
Looking back at the bridge, the Goosic Bridge, and then Loper got the name up there. That was
No, he didn't.
Well, he wanted to try to get the name up there.
Yeah.
And but that was like, looking back, you were doing something right. You know, those people saw that and they said, they're doing it right.
Well, I hope so.
Well, no, you did very well with that. There are other decisions you helped with, and you had your input was. I was around. I remember you. It was you're an amazing person, and
Well, Everett and I worked together.
yes, you
We
did.
made all the decisions together. We didn't, neither one of us just went off and did something on our own. And most of the time we had the kids involved in it too, because it was part of their lives too.
The Everett, you both came a long way from the time of prior to this speed shop, and your successes were just absolutely amazing. You took the whole racing scene in Arizona forward. Do you look back at that and you miss any of those days, or?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I wish we still had a business going, but it wouldn't go very well now because people are not buying parts like that anymore. They usually just order them over the internet or wherever. But I remember when Everett would come home after racing somewhere, he'd come in and ask me, "We need new spark plugs. Can we buy them?" And if one of the kids needed shoes or something, I'd tell him, "No, not this week, we can't." So he would go out and clean up his spark plugs and use them again. And then I'd tell him, "Okay, now you can get new spark plugs," until he got well into the business, and then the manufacturers started helping him out a bit with stuff like that. So, but it was fun in getting started.
The name is synonymous with multiple generations of fans here in the valley. I know that, and there's some, Phoenix has grown rather quick, and there's been people here that just weren't here back in those days, but
Right.
certainly the Goosic family, all of you, did a great job of helping people get into racing. What do you miss most about the racing? Being at the races?
I go every once in a while, but it's changed so much now. Everything is commercial. It's not like the good old days when you just went out and raced. You race what you bring to the races. Now they have to have millions of dollars to do their cars and everything, and they don't go much faster than they did when they had to scrape up whatever they could to race. And I think they had more fun then than they do now.
I can't argue with that. You're a lot simpler. Through the years, you and Ever had the privilege of being in a lot of drag races, both national and local, that went on to do well. Who are some of those people that you remember, racers that were big, that went on to do very well, or that you were
Wow.
I know that Garlitz was always, whenever Garlitz was in town,
Yeah,
he'd bring the car to the speed shop.
we had just bought a new Cadillac, and we were all going to dinner, and our lights went like that on the dashboard and broke the dashboard on our car. And he didn't even say "I'm sorry" or anything. He just kind of laughed, and that's it. He didn't offer to pay for it or anything, but oh well. We went on and had dinner anyway.
You still had dinner anyway.
Oh, yeah.
The other racers, local racers, who were some of the big competitors back when Everett was racing? When you both actually were racing, who did you feel good about beating? I mean, besides everybody, but there had to be some key people that were always.
I don't know if there were any of them that he really felt that he had to beat them.
That's good.
He wanted to win every time, you know. And a lot of them that were racing were not in the same class as he. But there was this guy, Jack Sniff. He had a roadster, like Everett did. And Everett liked beating him. But,
That was more of the one-on-one, same type of
yeah,
car.
but Jack liked to beat him too, so, you know, it all worked out. Everybody had their terms.
So along the ways, you developed a lot of friendships.
Oh, yeah,
People like the racers cared about each other.
right, yeah, and still do. Yeah.
Is that a takeaway that you have from the racing, you know, those days, and that you made friends that are still your friends? And
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I see Dan, I go to lunch, Dan Brown, Clint Brown's wife. We go to lunch every once in a while together. And at the reunions, Deanne and Shirley Sanders usually come out. Their husbands are both passed away, but they usually come out because they're still interested in what's going on and everything, and keeping the friendships.
so you met a lot of good people along the way. A lot of people remember you. I certainly do. The Goosic family, you, the matriarch, you should be very proud of everything you've accomplished over the years and the positive things you did in people's lives. And we thank you for being here. Wonderful, wonderful conversation. Known you for a long time, but I learned new things today that you know I didn't know, and it's just the wonderful thing about these videos. So, congratulations on, first of all, you are in the Arizona Drag Racers Hall of Fame, and congratulations, because Thelma Goosic, you're an Arizona drag racing legend.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.